This week's Torah portion is all about Moses sending the spies to Israel. And when they came to Israel and came back, 10 of the 12 spies came back with a terrible report. This is probably a story that many of you know. And they tell the Jewish people that this is a country that we cannot conquer. Why is it that we cannot conquer it? Because the people there are strong, they're large, they're like giants. The cities are fortified. Not only are there giants, but we were like grasshoppers in their eyes. That's how large they looked. We seem so small, like grasshoppers. That's what the Torah tells us, they said. But they also added something else. They said, and so we were in their eyes. Now that's an interesting idea. The Talmud tells us that how did they know that they were like grasshoppers in the eyes of these giants? Did they hear them say that? And the Medrash, a commentary on the Torah, tells us that God relates to the Jewish people the fact that you said that we felt like grasshoppers in their eyes. I can forgive you for that statement. I can forgive you for feeling so small and not having trust in God. But for you saying that we were in their eyes like grasshoppers, for that God says, I cannot forgive you. And why is that? Because the only reason why you imagined that you were so minuscule and tiny in their opinion is because that's how you felt. I can't argue with how you feel, but don't project what they're thinking about you when God has a different opinion. And the only reason why you think they feel that way is because you feel so strongly as well the same way about yourselves. And this, of course, is true. Modern psychology knows this to be true. That how we're feeling internally about our self-conception of ourselves, whether we feel a little bit inferior or not so capable. Many times when we think the other people feel the same way, it's actually not true. We're just simply imagining it cannot be any other way because that's how we perceive ourselves. Now, it's very interesting that this particular campaign of the Jewish people, I spoke about the sentence in the Torah of where they got this rising like a lion campaign against Iran. But it's interesting that in this week's parsha, we can say, if people had to think in contrast, if I told you one word, tell me the opposite. If I told you square, you'd probably say circle. If I told you tall, you'd probably say tiny. Well, what would be the opposite if I told you lion? You might say mouse or grasshopper or mosquito, something very small. We know one thing, that Jews and the Jewish nation fail when we perceive ourselves as small. Somehow maybe our enemies do get a sense that that's how we perceive ourselves. But when we see ourselves not as grasshoppers, when we see ourselves as lions, then what happens? The prophecy in the book of Leviticus, that 5 of you shall pursue 100. The exact opposite occurs. When we see ourselves as roaring lions, then our enemy feels like grasshoppers. The shoe is now on the other foot, and they're the ones fleeing, and we're doing the chasing. So we today hopefully will not repeat the mistake of the spies prior to the Jews meant to enter the land of Israel. Unfortunately, their bad and terrible report led to a 40-year delay. But hopefully we will not repeat their sense of self-inferiority and realize that we are anything but grasshoppers. We are not only rising like a lion, we've already become that lion. May there be safety and security and a quick victory for the nation of Israel. Shabbat Shalom.